Good morning, children. How are you today? Сәлеметсіздер ме, балалар? Қалдарың қалай? Здравствуйте, ребята. Как ваши дела? The theme of our lesson is exchanging opinions. Бүгінгі біздің сабақ тақырыбымыз пікір алмасу. Тема нашего урока называется обмен мнениями. Listening. Exercise number 1. Listen to the dialogue. Which poster has got the clearest message? Тыңдалым. Бірінші жаттығу. Диалогты тыңдаймыз. Мына суреттердің, постерлердің қайсысы анық? Хабарлама. Слушание. Упражнение номер 1. Слушаем диалог. Какие из этих постеров яснее?
19.
Hi, Dean. Have you seen these?
No, what are they?
They're posters for an anti-drugs campaign. A group of us is trying to raise awareness about drugs in sport. What do you think of them? We only want to use one.
Oh, okay. Well, that one's only got text. To be really effective, it should definitely have a photo. What do you think?
You might be right. I think the one we use should mention the benefits of drug-free sport. At least the one with the photo has got a clearer message. Do you agree?
I'm not sure about that. The message must be clear, but as you said, it should be more positive. It shouldn't try to scare us.
You're right. I reckon we need new posters.
Grammar. Modal verbs should, have to, must. Should следовало бы, стоит. Have to, должен, вынужден. Must, должен, обязан. The example for should. Do you think I should buy this hat? The example to have to. Our sales were in the red last month, so I have to reduce your salary. The example for must. You shouldn't walk on the grass. Modal verbs obligation review. Must. It's an official written rule. And an example for it is you must be 18 or older to vote. Should. It's a personal obligation weaker than must. An example for it is I should eat more vegetables. Have to. It's used in place of must when speaking not a modal verb. An example for it is she has to finish the report by 5. Let's watch the video. We can use must have to express obligation. We use should or must to express advice. We use mustn't to express prohibition. We use don't have to express a lack of obligation.
Let's talk about the difference between should, must, and have to. Now, all three of these are modal verbs, and we use them to talk about obligation or to give advice. First, let's talk about should. We use should to give advice or opinion or a recommendation. So keep in mind, should is not an obligation. So let's think of a scenario where you could give advice, an opinion, or a recommendation. Let's say your friend calls you and says, I feel overwhelmed at work. So your friend's in a negative situation and you want to give some advice, an opinion, or recommendation. You can use should. You can reply back and say, you should talk to your boss. Now let's take a look at the structure. We need should and a base verb. The base verb is simply the infinitive without to. You should talk. You should talk to your boss. I could use a negative and I could say, you shouldn't take on any more work. Or maybe I could give her some advice or my recommendation, my opinion, and say, you should ask a colleague for help. Now it's your turn to practice this structure. Let's say I call you and I say, I have a really bad headache. What's some advice, a recommendation, or an opinion you can share with me using should or shouldn't? And remember, you need your base verb. So put your example in the comments now. Now let's talk about must. Must is used for obligation. For example, you must finish the report by 5 o'clock. I have no option. I must finish the report by 5 o'clock. It's an obligation. Now let's take a look at the structure. We use must with a base verb. You must finish. You must finish the report by 5 o'clock. I might get an email from the government that says you must file your taxes by the end of the month. Or to apply for a job, they might tell me you must submit your application online. So now it's your turn to practice. I want you to leave an example in the comments using must. And remember, it's an obligation and you need a base verb. So leave your example now. Let's move on to have to. Have to is also used for obligation, but generally that obligation is coming from someone else, an outside force. For example, I could say, I have to walk my dog. So first, let's take a look at the sentence structure. Here we have and then our infinitive. So keep in mind, this one we use have to. Have to and the base verb. I have to walk my dog. So whether or not I want to walk my dog isn't really the issue here. Is that as a pet owner, I'm obligated to walk my dog. I have to walk my dog. Or I could say, I have to babysit my cousin this weekend. So again, the obligation is coming from somewhere else. So maybe my aunt is requiring that I do this, or another family member. I have to babysit my cousin this weekend. Remember, to babysit are infinitive. Or I could say, I have to buy a new car. Now the obligation is my current car doesn't work anymore. So I have to buy a new car. It's not my choice. I don't want to, but I have to because my current car doesn't work. So now it's your turn to practice. Let us know in the comments something you have to do this week.
Exercise number 1. Look at the sentence from 1 to 5 and read the rules. Then change the words in blue using your own ideas. Mana жаттығуда сөйлемдерге қараймыз, оқимыз. Көкпен жазылған сөздерді өз ойларыңмен ауыстырыңдар. На этом упражнении смотрим на эти предложения. Потом заменяем слова синим другими словами.